the idea of JPA. The idea of JPA, let me summarize it one more time. You go to your entity classes. Yep. You add the annotation at entity. You go to your primary key. You add the annotation at ID. And that's it. Now to interact with the database, you use something called Entity Manager. So for you to create an Entity Manager, you use, this is Java people. They love factories and not simple way to create things. So you need to create an Entity Manager factory, and from the Entity Manager factory, you create the Entity Manager. And then that's it. That's the complicated part. And then from that time onwards, you use the Entity Manager to run the queries. And the good thing is you don't need to convert from rows to objects anymore. It is done for you automatically. So when you run this one is called JPQL. It's similar to SQL. If you want to use SQL, instead of doing create query, you say here create native query. And this will be SQL. And there is also GPQL, which is similar to SQL. You just say create query. Once you create the query, how you run it, you say get result list, and this will run it for you. Now, in here you might be wondering, what is the name of the database, what is the name of the server, what is the username and password. I didn't put none of that information I put here. Where is it stored? How does the system figure out the connection details? So welcome to this little file. This little file called, you will find it under resources, persistence.xml. It's a little file that has all the configuration data. So in this file, what I have is, oh, by the way, I create what is known as persistence unit, and here I put all the configuration. This is the driver I'll be using. This is the URL. This is the database I'll be connecting to. In here, I want the tables to be automatically created. Yes, no problem. You know how I didn't create the tables first? The tables will be auto-created when I run my program. So how do I get this to auto-create? I just say here, persistence, schema generation. When I run my program, either I want to drop and create, or just create, or do nothing. Database is already set, I just want to interact with it. But in development environment, every time you run, if you wish, you could drop and recreate, or just create if it doesn't exist already. And here, if you want to see the magic, what JPA is doing, you can turn on this flag, and then as you interact with the database, it shows you the statement database is generating. If you wish, if you want to know what JPA is doing in the background. Yep, that's it. This will give you all the data to connect to your database. It's nicely configured in one file. Your code is not aware of it. You don't need to put this in your code, which is nice because you don't want to hard code this in your code. You just put it in here. Even a running application, you can come to this file and change it. Start and stop, rerun, it will use the new connection. Okay. So for example, currently I'm using Derby running, and the database is in memory. I can later on make it a real database outside my program and then connect to it. All I need, I come and change this URL to another URL and change this to another GDBC driver. Okay, so all this is hidden. So for me, I go to Entity Manager Factory, create the factory first, and then create the Entity Manager from the factory. Okay, and then that's it. From now on, I will use the factory to do reading and writing. Okay, now, as I explained, this one is GPQL, and this one, if I just want to use the normal SQL, instead of using create query, I will use create a native query. Okay. Then here is the scary stuff from the past. Now if I want to add, all I do, get the new object, and then go and say entity manager.persist and give it the object. I just need to wrap this in a transaction. I'm not sure if you have seen the concept of a transaction in the database. You do begin transaction, do the action, and then commit the transaction. If something goes wrong, you roll back. Yeah. So that's it. Otherwise, in JDBC, I have to do inserts, into, and type all that stuff, if you recall. In here, I don't need to do all of that. I just take the object, go to entity manager.persist, and store it, and that's it. You get the idea? That's it. Now, once my repository is working, I can call it from the service. I think I explained this last time, if you remember. I said, if someone comes to /suras/API/suras, they will end up in here. I'll get them from the repository and return them, and they will be auto-serialized to either JSON or XML. That's it. I hope